Guys, it looks like City have got their first signing of the transfer window. When you're watching this, it might already be done. Well, as we're currently recording this, it's been "Here We Go" by Fabrizio Romano. So essentially, we all know it's going to happen. We're talking about Tijjani Reijnders. Is that pronounced right? Carlo probably know more than I do. How do you pronounce it, by the way,
That's
Carlo?
how I pronounce it. So yeah, I
There
think
we
that's
go.
right.
Carlo knows more, so I did it all right. We're here to talk about Tijjani Reijnders. It's Reijnders, apparently, not Reinders, I've been saying. We just signed him from AC Milan for a fee of around £46 million. The first signing of the summer rebuild, and I'm very excited by this one. So I've got this wonderful gentleman alongside me today, Carlo Gargenese, from the Italian Football Podcast, actually. There'll be a link in the description. It should be linked in YouTube as well, if YouTube lets me. Please do go and check that out in the description below and on screen and all that, the usual stuff. Carlo, of course, also works for transfers.com. So basically, Italian football and transfers. It's perfect for this video. Carlo, thank you for coming on the channel, mate. How are you?
No, thank you for having me. You've got a great show. You're doing really, really well. So it's a pleasure to be on your show.
No worries, mate. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you, genuinely. So I thought it'd be good to get in touch with you about Reinders because, of course, City have just signed him. He comes with a massive reputation. Relatively older for an elite career, if that makes sense. Only 2 years at the highest level, and 26. So you could argue he's a bit of a late bloomer because he only left, the Dutch football at 24 or 23, whatever it was, but it was 2 years ago. But he's made his move to the Premier League. It's a big move. The first thing I want to ask you about really is just the fee because look, I've seen that he's essentially, I'm not sure if it was a fan vote or something like that, but he was voted Serie A midfielder of the year, and he said a cracking season. But the fee is £46 million. There's add-ons as well. What's the deal with that fee? Because obviously, I expected it to be higher than that. Maybe I'm just used to the Premier League tax. Are Milan sort of struggling right now? I know they finished eighth in Serie A. What's the reason behind the fee being quite reasonable in the world of modern football?
I think it's as you said. I think it is down to if he was playing in for another Premier League. If Man City were buying him from, let's say, Brentford or Brighton, then probably the fee would be higher because of that Premier League tax. By Serie A standards, that's probably. I mean, it's like you said, £46 million. I think that's about 55 million
Yeah,
euros. We work in euros, so I'm trying to do the conversion, but
that's about right, I
it's
think. Yeah,
reaching a potential 70 million euros. So if it reaches there, if I'm looking at it at the final figure, 70 million, is that a good sum for Milan by Serie A standards? I'd say yes. But
yeah.
by the other side, from Man City's perspective, yeah, maybe it's a good price for them as well. So maybe it's one of those that both teams are probably doing okay out of.
I'd like to talk about his Milan career as well because I was just saying at the top of that video, he was. I'm looking at his Wikipedia now. He was at AZ in the Eredivisie. He only signed for AC Milan in 2023, so he's had 2 seasons there. This season, of course, was a bit of a breakout season for him. And I was looking at his stats, and they show the story of two very different seasons. AC Milan this year, a goal scorer, 15 goals in 54 games, just a 4 in 50 the previous season. And I was looking at comparing some of his data. He seemed to be more defensive minded last year compared to this year. What has been his story of his career at AC Milan, and how do his 2 seasons compare to each other?
Well, I think, like you said, I think this season he's been playing a little bit further up the pitch. Different manager, it was Stefano Pioli, and then this season was a disastrous season for Milan. But they started off with Fonseca. He got sacked. Sergio Conceição came in mid-season. He's now left as well. So he worked with two different managers, but he generally played in as an attacking midfielder mostly this season. But he also played in a deeper role as well. In the second, when Conceição came in and they signed a lot of attacking players in January, they did try playing him as in a deeper role. He didn't work so well in that role. So I think he is better as an attacking midfielder than as a deeper midfielder. But yes, as you said, this season he has really broken out. If you look at his numbers this season, very, very impressive. 15 goals, 5 assists in all competitions, I
It's
believe,
not
if I
bad.
got that correct.
Something like that, what
So
I remember, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, 10 goals. No, 15 goals. Sorry, yeah, 10 goals in Serie A. Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers now. So 10 goals in Serie A, 15 goals in all competitions, 5 assists, which is very, very impressive when you consider this is one of the worst seasons in the history of Milan. They finished eighth. They didn't qualify for Europe. And it's been a total shambles on and off the pitch. So for him to post those kind of numbers, I think is outstanding.
What role was he playing in the season before in 23-24? Was he playing a little bit deeper, or was he still further up the pitch?
Yeah, a little bit. He didn't have I mean, he still did get forward, but he wasn't as offensively minded as he is this season. So I think that if City want to get the best out of him, using him as a player that as a more of an attacking midfielder would be the way to go.
That sort of leads nicely into the next question anyway, about his strengths as a player, because obviously, he's had a breakout season this season further forward. That's led to goals. What do you think are the strengths that stand out that would have, led to City pulling the trigger on this signing?
I think knowing Pep and the way that he thinks, there are very few midfielders who have that press breaking ability to break the lines. Mostly with Reijnders, it's a little burst, it's a little surge over 5 meters, just to get out and then just drive at the defense in front of him, drive into that space. Even if it's only 5 meters, but he is an excellent ball carrier over longer distances. But it's that short distance burst out of the press.
Yeah.
And that makes the difference. And I think for Pep Guardiola teams as well, where sometimes, especially this season, in my opinion, been a little bit too sterile, moving the ball too slowly, players not really being able to eliminate their man, like maybe in past seasons, that they've had players that can go past their man and just create an overload. That is something that Reijnders, I think, will bring to this City team, that he has that. And there's not many players like that, to be honest with you. They're very hard to find. So more so than his offensive qualities in scoring and creating goals, I think that is something that I think Pep Guardiola will really, really like about him.
Kovacic is pretty decent at that, getting past people, and he's got that acceleration and pace to get through. The one thing Kovacic has always sort of lacked really is probably the nuance and the subtleties creatively. Like, don't get me wrong, he's obviously better than average, hence why he's played for so many illustrious clubs, but he's sort of definitely not the most creative player, I would say. How does Reijnders compare that way? Reijnders compare, is he technically up to scratch? Because I would argue the one thing City have struggled with recently, we've signed like Núñez to play centrally. It turns out he didn't quite have the intelligence. That sounds harsh, but that's more or less Guardiola's words, to play there. And Calvin Phillips, you tried, that was a failure. And I would say we've seen Gundogan, get a little bit older, and it felt like City's technical standards have dropped a little bit. Just because they haven't quite had the right. And by that I mean, the players who can do 1,000 million passes, to quote Guardiola, and is he more suitable than Kovacic in that role for City, would you argue?
I think there are definitely some comparisons with Kovacic. I think I might have compared him myself to Kovacic. I think he does have those qualities, especially with that little burst over 5 meters. What he has on Kovacic, though, is Kovacic, and I remember him from when he was in Italian football.
Yeah.
He's a player that he can't really shoot from outside the area. He's got no real goal threat, and probably doesn't get that many assists either. I don't know what his assist figures are like for City recently. So
he's done all right this season, actually. He's scored a few goals, but it's very rare, like these sort of few weirdly.
He's not really a goal threat generally, no. Whereas Reijnders will be a goal threat. So Reijnders is kind of like Kovacic, but Kovacic has improved. Kovacic is better defensively. See, Reijnders, he's not a holding midfielder. If you play, I don't know, Pep wouldn't play this because Pep's all about space. It's not really about set positions. But if you say take a 4-2-3-1 formation, playing him in the double pivot, which Milan have used them in that pivot, it's not his role. He doesn't have those kind of defensive qualities. He can do it, but he needs to have that license to go forward. And so that's where Pep and where City need to use him.
So the weaknesses wise, defensively, is it fair to say that's he's not quite up to scratch? Because
I would say,
he reminds me of Gundogan as a footballer, but Gundogan has always been smart enough to do his defensive duties. Is Reijnders not quite there yet?
I think with Reijnders can be, he's not disciplined in the sense that he kind of will go off and do his own thing sometimes.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems with Milan this season is they haven't played as a team. They haven't played. There's been no units in the team. So there's been no defensive units. There's been no unit in midfield where when you're out of possession, you just need to halt to have a compact line. Like 2 lines of 4, for example. Maybe that's something that he needs to improve on. When they're out of possession, Man City, which isn't that often, but when they're out of possession, being able to hold the line, hold the position, And that's something that probably Pep will need to drill into him, that this is what you've got to do. When the ball's here, you've got to be there. When the
Yeah.
ball's here, you've got to be there. When we've got the ball, you need to be here. When the ball moves to that area, when this player's got the ball, that player moves from his role, you need to cover for him. He's been a little bit, probably that's something that he's a bit indisciplined with. And that's something that probably that's one area that he'll need to get to grips with at City.
What do you think that indiscipline stems from? Is it a character thing, or is it an experience thing? Because I only asked the inexperience thing because I still maintain he's only had 2 years at elite level football and stuff like that. Is it maybe a team thing, or is he? Do you think he's capable of getting better at that? I don't know what his mentality is like. What's he seem like mentality wise as a footballer?
Mentality wise, I think he's liked by all his teammates, so I don't think there's a problem with kind of like joining in with the group. And he's a top class player, so I don't think there's a problem with mentality. Why has he had these issues? I think it's been a Milan issue. There's so many Milan players this season that have just not been team play. And I wouldn't say he's not a team player because he's been their best player this season. But if I want to give other examples. Yeah, Rafael Leao, 𝙤𝙬𝙨𝙩𝙬𝙚, who are the 2 big names of Milan team.
Yeah.
They've just been individuals this past season. So that's rubbed off probably on some of the others. And it's just been a bit of a shambles, Milan this season. It's hard to read too much into it. I know it's a bit of a cop-out, but I think that, in terms of bringing that bit of discipline and knowing that, there's sometimes where you just have to hold your position. You just have to be conservative. That's something that I think he probably needs to improve on a bit.
So you said you can't really see him then in a double pivot alongside Rodri. I was wondering because I in my head naively I was sort of hoping he'd sort of alleviate some of the pressure and get the ball from the defenders every now and then because technically he looks good enough. But do you think his best position is a little bit further forward than that then?
I think so, but it's really difficult. You'll know better than me, but with Pep, do they really have a formation? It's all about.
It's very fluid. Yeah, it's about he will we defend in a 4-4-2, then we're attacking a 2-3 something. It's mad. Everyone moves.
And then
everywhere.
if you've got the ball in the opposition half, the positions are all moved around as well. So I think that.
Look, we have our centre backs are often camped 20 metres from the opposition's goal. They're playing
exactly.
They're often playing in a number 10 role at centre backs. You've got a
it will change. If you ask me this question in a conservative, normal 2 double pivot, do I think he's ideal? No, I don't. I think he's better for going further forward. But also, I acknowledge that obviously it depends how well he comes back from the ACL. That Rodri is a cheat code when it comes to being as a pivot. He's so good. It's just ridiculous that I feel like it's almost easy for anyone to. Yeah, it's easy for anyone to play with him. You make anyone look good in that position. Do you know what I mean?
My argument is that City, even with all the injuries, if Rodri had been fit this season, we would have been a lot closer to Liverpool than people realise. Because Rodri, I really think it just changes everything. The whole team functions 50% better because we get less injuries because we keep the ball better. It's a side here, but that's a hill I've been willing to die on. I think Rodri is that
I agree with you.
That everyone's better. Phil Foden doesn't have the season he's had. Haaland scores more goals. Less players get injured because we control the ball more. We're not chasing. We're not panicking. And I think it's really weird. I think that Rodri just elevates everyone by a vast majority. But I think but maybe I wonder if Guardiola's thinking, look, Rodri mainly the deep guy, but I presume Reijnders, we haven't talked about this, but I presume Reijnders is good in tight spaces with the ball at his feet.
Very good. Very, very good in tight spaces, yeah. So I think that possibly, yes, I think he probably could play with Rodri, next to Rodri, and be allowed to make those bursts forward. Sometimes it's better to have the space in front of you for these kind of players that can break the press, rather than, let's say, collect the ball, not necessarily with your back to play, but when you're already on the edge of the area and Reijnders was to collect the ball, well, then that takes away one of his great strengths, which is that burst away into space. So yes, I think that he can play there, and I know Pep is a genius, obviously he's such a genius tactically that I'm sure he'll be able to find a way to get the best out of him.
Which side does he favour on the pitch? Does he put more slightly to the right and more slightly to the left, essentially?
I'd have to look at the heat map, but I would imagine more to the left because he's a right-footed player, so he likes to cut in and he's had a couple of curlers, so yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he definitely prefers playing further forward, but like you're naturally 20 meters further forward than most people are on most teams anyway when you play for Man City. So I think you play six and be in number 10 role, because that's just how City are. Everyone is just much more up the pitch, and I would guess. I've sort of, interrupting my own thoughts here, but I think given the season City have had where, we struggled to score a goal against Southampton when we were chasing Champions League football, I think he wants people like Reijnders because he wants them on the ball because even though they're more attack-minded, they can be a little bit deeper, keep the ball, but they're vastly more creative and vastly more of a goal threat. So the final thing I want to talk about really is just your opinion, his suitability to Pep's style. Is he... Would you look at Reijnders instinctively and say he's a Guardiola footballer? Because obviously he's got that Dutch background. Not every Dutch footballer is inspired by Cruyff, but you can't help but think that, does he fit the Pep protege?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think he's got technical quality. He's got the qualities. Also, he's got the qualities that City need as well. He's going to inject a bit of pace and a little bit of urgency into the City, which is one of the things I've been really disappointed with City this season. I haven't enjoyed watching City. That's just coming from a neutral. I've not enjoyed watching them. I used to love watching Pep Guardiola because I'm a purist. I love possession, pass football. But this season, it's just been it's been tough to watch City. I think, and I think he'll add that energy and that injection. Pep loves him. Like the people that I've spoken to said that Guardiola is absolutely in love with this player. So you think that it seems to be like that Pep has been involved in giving the okay to this transfer. It's not come from the management or whatever. He's been part of this. So you think that's a good omen as well, wouldn't you? If Pep's chosen the player. I know he's had some stinkers as well in the past. I remember at Barcelona he handpicked Chigrinsky. I don't know if you remember that guy.
No, I do remember the Ukrainian centre-back, wasn't he, or something like that?
Ukrainian centre-back. It was a total disaster. So Pep doesn't always get it right. He chose Zlatan as well. He chose Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
good choice of quality, bad choice of character,
Yes, exactly. Well, he sent Eto'o the other way.
That was a mistake.
I think that I think it's a good. I think he's at the right age as well. He's 26, going to be 27, so he's entering his peak. And he's going to be ready to go. So I think it's a good signing.
I think to me, like one of the most exciting thing is, as I do think the fact that he is reasonably inexperienced at top flight football. I know, like he was literally only playing for 𝙏𝙬𝙨𝙧𝙖𝙬 like as recently as 4 years ago. And as much obviously he's been playing for a while now. He's only had Champions League football or European football for a couple of seasons. He's not got. You can sign a player these days at 26, and they've had 8 years playing Premier League football or Italian Serie A football and European competitions and playing 60, 70 games a season and then playing 50 international games, and they're just tired. I don't think he is going to be there. I think this Reijnders he's coming in. Look, I don't mean to disrespect AC Milan at all. It's vastly more historic club than Manchester City. I can admit that even as a City fan. But right now, it's definitely perceived as a step up, in terms of like the expectations of where the clubs are at.
Of course,
it is, and I think he'll be seeing this as his big mainstream move, to the Premier League for a team that has won 4 leagues in a row prior to last season, and under Guardiola playing alongside Rodri. I think he'll be seeing this as his sort of launch pad to potentially superstar status. And I'm hoping that he's got the right level of hunger, if that makes sense. And that's where I'm thinking this could be, a very smart move where he's going to be eager to impress, you presume, massively eager to impress. He's not coming from, a squad player from Real Madrid where he's like, yeah, well, I've been there, done it already, So I'm hoping.
I think there's more guarantees. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that there's more, like City of the signings that City have made this calendar year, like in January, they kind of like Marmoush, is it Kusanov? Some of these players they've bought have not, like, I think Reijnders is a little bit more. Has played at a more kind of, obviously playing for Milan, even if they're not what they were.
No, it's a bigger level. I agree.
Playing at a historic, legendary club that has expectations, that has standards. So he's probably maybe more ready than those players to come into this kind of environment because he's kind of experienced that top level club and probably at a higher level than those players as well, playing Champions League and everything.
We're just playing the San Siro immediately.
So I think there's less risk with that than there is, say, like the Kusanov signing, which was a bit of a gamble, really.
Even Marmoush was still very much in a breakout field, whereas like playing for AC Milan is much bigger than playing for Frankfurt. Like it just is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, Carlo, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. It was a good chat. I can't wait for him. I honestly think he's going to be. I think he's what City have been missing. I think City He's a little bit of elegance there, a little bit of confidence, in his style. He's technically great, a good turn of pace, and everyone has to have a good turn of pace these days in the Premier League. It seems because he's 6'1", decent size.
That's one thing I should have said, actually. Sorry, just to finish. That's one thing I should have said, that he is suited. I think he is physically, in terms of that side of things, I think he's suited to the Premier League.
Can he put himself back a bit if he needs to? If that makes sense. Is he strong? Like, because obviously I'm not sure he's not exactly Fernandinho, but does he have the physical capabilities?
I think he's got the physical capabilities. Whether he's got that nasty streak, so to speak, I don't know. I've not seen that, but I think he can handle himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he can handle himself.
Has he played in any systems at Milan that involve pressing and stuff like that? Because we've just appointed Pep Linders, who's the former Klopp assistant. The guy who's more press. I think City are going to be pressing aggressively next season.
Not to the extent of, but yeah, I mean Fonseca, who was there for the first half of this past season, he's a very kind of modern, progressive kind of manager. It didn't work out, but his idea of playing was pushing up with a high line and pressing. So yeah, he will have experienced that less so under Conceição but Pioli as well before him. He had that kind of vision of football. So yeah, I think that won't be a problem. I'm sure about that. He won't have a problem with that side of things.
I can't wait, mate. I can't wait to watch him. I think he's just a really silky footballer, and I think we've been missing a bit of that at City. Too many. I think the standards technically have dropped a little bit, and I think this hopefully should raise the standard again a bit. Guys, please check out Carlo's podcast. Of course, there'll be a link in the description. Hopefully, it should be tagged on YouTube as well. I'll link to it on Twitter as well, almost certainly. Carlo, thank you so much, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, and good luck for you're in the Club World Cup, right?
We are, mate. Yeah. So
not that anyone cares about it, but yeah.
I didn't that much until we've linked to 𝙏𝙬𝙨𝙬𝙚𝙧𝙖𝙬 and Reijnders and 𝙏𝙬𝙨𝙬𝙚𝙧.
You want to see them play?
Yeah, damn right. Like 𝙏𝙬𝙨, man. Like, he's a mercurial talent. I can't wait to watch that. So if it happens, it might not happen by the time watching this video, but we've got a lot of players. Like Rodri returning as well, and Oscar Bob, who's a insane talent.
I love 𝙏𝙬𝙨, by the way. I don't know whether he can possibly fit into modern football, but I love watching him. He's an old school player that just
magic.
He's a dream.
Like, like, honestly, like I think
he's a maverick. He's a maverick, isn't he?
I think Pep really wants him, apparently. I think he's just... The low block is our problem right now because we've lost a lot of creativity with De Bruyne getting older. So I think Pep just wants someone who you can just give the keys to do your magic stuff. And he's got La Pausa, he can slow it down, draw everyone in, little drag back, delightful free ball.
He's a dream. He's a maverick. He's what we called in England a maverick in the 70s, 80s.
Absolutely.
Like,
well,
he's one of them.
Gaza-esque, that kind of thing, like that level of maverick. Carlo, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Thank you, mate.
I can't wait to see how he gets on. Guys, once again, link in the description. Check out Carlo's podcast. Give him a follow on Twitter and all the usual stuff. Let me know what you make of Reijnders and if you're excited to see him and where he fits in the Manchester City's team. For now, though, up the Blues. Bye-bye. See you later.